will look at W, what you should be eating or what you are eating. H for how you're eating it. A for the amount you're eating, and T for the timing or the frequency that you're eating. So let's look at point number 1, what you're eating. The quality of food you're eating is really, really key. It's fundamental in nutrition because that's how you're getting your nutrients. So how can you choose the best type of food? Well, the best thing to do is eat foods that are in their whole or natural form. So they're most closely resembling their natural state. So for example, you choose an apple over a glass of apple juice, or you would choose whole grain bread rather than refined bread. You would choose a whole piece of fish rather than fish fingers. You would choose to make your own hamburger patty with mince rather than buying a McDonald's hamburger patty that you're not sure where that's come from. So as much as possible, choosing foods that most closely resemble their natural form. I have a quality checklist that you can download so that you can look at other things like whether they've got additives, whether it's smoked, whether it's preserved, whether it's got too much salt, too much sugar in it. There's a few guidelines that you can download off the site to help you choose good quality food. So the second point is how you're eating it. The environment or the state in which you're eating your food is really, really important in terms of bioavailability of nutrients, but also how the food is received into the body. The second point, how. How should you be eating? What is the best way to eat to ensure that your body is able to absorb the nutrients from your food? So there's a couple of points to think about. One is always try to eat with the 5 senses. Digestion starts even before the food enters our mouth. As we're smelling the food, as we're looking at food, that taste that our body is preparing our mouths to receive that food, and we start to salivate. Always be sitting down when you're eating, because that means that you won't overeat. When we're standing, we can sometimes tend to overeat because the little pressure sensors in our stomach are positioned differently, so they don't register fullness as quickly. Don't do anything else while you're eating other than enjoying the food and the present company that you're eating the food with. So, for example, don't eat food in front of the TV. Try not to snack while you're reading a book or sitting at your desk or working, because what can happen then is 2 things. One, we can overeat. We tend to do something called mindless eating. The other thing that can happen is we start to condition our body for receiving food at that time. So for example, we'll be sitting down in front of the TV and our body will register that we're hungry. Our body says, oh, I'd like to receive some food now because I'm sitting in front of the TV. So it becomes a conditioned response to eating. Other things that are important is not to drink tea and coffee around meal times. Have them away from meals because they can actually interfere with nutrient absorption. As much as you can, avoid diet shakes and things like that, and rather eat your food. The chewing reflex actually releases a chemical called CCK, which will register satiety and fullness in your body so you don't overeat. So it is important to chew your food and eat. Don't eat while you're particularly stressed, because what happens is the blood is moving away from the digestive system when we're in a state of stress, so that means our body can't actually absorb and digest the food properly. Another thing to remember is that certain foods will interact with other foods. So, for example, if you want to get the most iron out of a food, eat it away from things like corn and dairy, because the calcium and the phytates will bind to the iron and diminish its absorption potential. So rather have But vitamin C, on the other hand, will enhance iron absorption, iron bioavailability. So we would squeeze lemon juice onto spinach, or eat tomatoes and things with meat or bean dishes and things like that. So the third point is the amount that we eat. The amount that you eat, portion control, is really, really important. We don't need to overeat. We should graze rather than gorge, and never ever eat till you're absolutely stuffed. So what is a good way to measure portions? So if you think of a tennis ball as the size as a portion of fruit or vegetables, if you think of a piece of meat or a serving of meat as the size of a deck of cards or the palm of your hand, and guys, deck of cards, regular deck of cards, not giant deck of cards. So note the difference. And in terms of fat, we don't want to be having more than about a matchbox full. So remember that there are hidden fats in all sorts of foods, and fats are essential, so we do want to be having fats, but preferably fats from vegetable sources, so seeds and nuts and things like that, or otherwise oily fish, for example sardines. When you're eating, in terms of portion control, try to fill half your plate with fruit, with vegetables or salads. So, and we want a medium-sized plate, not a full plate, not a very big plate, and we want a serving of meat, and then we can have a serving of our more starchy foods like brown rice or pasta or potato or pumpkin or butternut or sweet potato, something like that as well. So half of vegetables or salad though is a good way to eat. The fourth and last is timing. Timing is important. How regularly you're eating is really, really important for your well-being, in terms of maintaining energy, in terms of maintaining weight, and in terms of looking after your metabolism. We want to eat 3 to 6 times a day. That's optimal. Eating less than that is not ideal, and eating more than that isn't really necessary unless, for example, you're an athlete. So every 4 to 5 hours, every 3 to 5 hours, sorry, to be including some food will help to control your blood sugar levels. And that's where we need to keep providing the body with a fuel source. So as our fuel source diminishes in our blood, what happens is our body will look for an alternative supply, and that's the stored sugars. So for example, that would be stored as glycogen. Once our body's exhausted those, our body will actually go to break down muscle, our protein, as a fuel source before it will break down fat. So skipping meals is not a good way to manage weight. In fact, it's the worst way to manage weight, because you can actually lead to a lower metabolism, lower metabolic rate, and more fat mass by skipping meals. So do eat regularly and always eat breakfast. So that's the what, how you're eating, the amount of food you're eating, and the timing you're eating. If you want to know a little bit more about how to apply those principles, you can print off my 23 tips. And that's a free report, and it will tell you 23 ways to apply those 4 principles. I can guarantee you that if you do 1 or 2 of them today, you're going to make a change to your health today. By adding more of those regularly and getting them into a routine and a way of life for you, you will celebrate a different level of health and a different quality of life. So I encourage you to download that report and to get eating well and feeling great today. Thank you.